Hey everybody, I'm Natalie Bencivenga and welcome to 5 Minutes with. This week I am so excited to share space with Rae Prunty. He is running for Braddock Council, Second Ward. He's actually, I think, one of the youngest people running for council at only 20 years old. Although you're looking very dapper and sophisticated today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for joining me. So if for people that may not know you, why don't you just share a little bit about your journey?
Definitely. Yeah, so as you highlighted, I'm 20 years old. I am a decade-long resident of Braddock, Pennsylvania. And since the age of 12, I've been very active in my community. I've applied myself and was able to get myself through private high school. I attended Winchester Thurston, where I will go and begin my early stages of politics. Nonprofit organization starting, and shortly after I would go on to George Washington University and study communications and policy making for a little bit. And I'm back in my hometown of Braddock, and this time I'm back with more knowledge and more motivation than ever to make a change, which is why I have decided to run for council.
That's so exciting, and your elevator pitch was just right. I can tell you're learning the ropes of this politics stuff already.
Yeah.
Awesome. So speaking of running for politics, why were you inspired to run for council in Braddock?
Definitely. So for me, and I know a lot of people around the world, politics always has a negative narrative. And I always tell people, if you want to be someone who complains about an issue, you should also bring double the answers or double the solutions for those issues. So for me, someone who had mentored and motivated me, or two people, were the Fettermans, John and Gisele Fetterman. And I always looked at them before we became as close as we are. And I'm like, if they could be like the ideal politicians, then what stops that from being, what stops me from being able to do that? So for me, just watching John be productive in the community and just watching people express their concerns and working one-on-one with people. Like, since I was 12, I've been volunteering. I see the struggles in the community and I see the politicians in the community, and it just makes me wonder, why isn't there change? So I am hopefully going to be that solution. And, we hear that so much of politicians, but I'm dedicated to this. So that's why I'm deciding to run for council.
And can you tell everybody a little bit about what is it that a council member does?
Yes, so contrary to popular belief, the mayor of a city or municipality actually has the least power. And especially in Braddock, Pennsylvania, wherever we have a home rule act, and the home rule sort of strips more power of the mayor and assigns it to members of council, such as the borough manager. Now, members of council act sort of as a legislative branch in the sense of policy making and goals for the community. And ideally, and I emphasize ideally, the council is supposed to represent the community as a whole, which is something that hasn't been happening a lot. And that's what really brings me into wanting to bring transparency and better communications to represent this city. I look at it, our youngest council member is 42. You could have two of me on council and I would still be the youngest member. So, that's just a little insight of what a council member does.
No, that's really helpful. So when you were talking about your goals and some of the things that you're seeing in your community, what are some of the tangible issues that you want to tackle that you could actually create action steps for to complete while you're working in council?
Definitely. So one thing about me, just watching as a lot of politicians in the past have sort of given their platforms and their speeches, we always kind of get, an ear beating of the same issues. And, while I believe advocacy is very important, there gets a point where it's like, there's more to politics than these three issues. So for me, what I believe is for Braddock to ever really get back on, the right track, we need to start with the little issues, things as small as public safety, emphasizing, don't park in a crosswalk. Pedestrians have the right of way in a crosswalk. These are things that make a community home. And I think that's a feeling that Braddock residents have been missing for so long. In addition to that, our parents, every morning I start my day around 6 a.m. I go on a jog. While I'm on my jog, I pick up garbage along the avenue. And I drop it in a garbage can. And I really take pride in that. And I believe when people see members of the community doing that, it inspires them to do other things as well. And, for me, communications and transparency in Braddock, that's something we've been missing for years. I've been speaking with a lot of residents who have been getting overcharged for water bills. And, I just found out myself that it actually wasn't the borough's fault. It was just the lack of communication that was happening, that they couldn't communicate. They made a mistake. It was a simple mistake that they got meters that track water that went from cubic feet to gallons. So our water company was converting gallons to gallons and overcharging residents. So it's little things like that, and as a communications major, I believe I can communicate this well through social media and in person.
I think those are all really excellent talking points and things that can actually really benefit the people that are living there. So, what is one thing about the residents of Braddock, about your hometown of Braddock, that you think people might be surprised about?
Definitely. So one thing for sure is just like the friendly environment. And I know that's like such a cliche answer within a community, but we have to realize Braddock is a community that has been bragged on for years and continues to be. And after we've lost such a strong figure as John, in our mayoral seat, that kind of even put us back farther in the political world and realm. And so I definitely want to just restore the idea of what politics is like in this community. But from the Free Store to For Good Pittsburgh to Superior Motors to Hockey Brothers, Family Dollar, like we are a small community, but yet we're so big in the sense of business and the sense of just love and care and passion within the town and its residents.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love Braddock and I love the people of Braddock, and it's one of my favorite spots in the city. So it warms my heart that you're working to make it a better place for all. So before we wrap this 5 minutes up, Rae, can you just share why it's important for people to get out and vote, in particular young people being 20 years old? Why is it important to become politically active at this point in your life?
Definitely. I always stress as I touched upon earlier, if you really want to see change, I encourage you to be a part of that change. One of my favorite quotes is, it actually says, "Don't be fooled by the calendar. There are only as many days in a year as you make use of. One person gets only a week's value out of a year, while some people get a full year's value out of a week." And that's from Charles Richards. And, I say that to encourage people, what you can get done in one day, you'd be surprised. We need people out here. We need young voices advocating for change. There's going to get a point where it's us, we're going to be the elders, in a few years, not a few, but a few decades. So, right, a few decades, right. So I definitely think that's really important, just like to stress that we have a voice and never to let anyone minimize your voice. Never. That is the worst thing. The only person that can stop you is you. And I always express that to everyone.
Well, Rae, thank you so much for sharing your platform, for taking time to educate the audience on what it is to be a council member. I wish you luck in the race, and thank you for spending a little bit more than 5 minutes with me.
Definitely. Thank you for having me, Natalie.
Thank you.